So, when you think of the German language, your mind probably goes immediately to the country of Germany. Maybe you even think of Switzerland or Austria instead. But what if I told you that there were native German speakers with a unique dialect that were born and raised in the United States? In fact, these native German speakers are from the state of Texas. The dialect that these German cowboys speak is called Texas German, which is a dialect of the German language, of course. Now, about 14% of the Texas population has German descent, but only a small fraction of these individuals have retained the German language in their family. So, how did Texas even develop a German dialect? In fact, how did the German language even get there, and how has it survived into the 21st century? Well, in this video, I'll be going through the history of Texas Germans along with what makes this dialect extremely unique compared to other German dialects. The story begins with a man named Johann Friedrich Ernst, born as Christian Friedrich Ernst. He was born near the village of... on July 18, 1796. Now, Johann's story doesn't really begin until he's an adult, so we'll skip his entire adolescence. At 22 years old, he married a woman by the name of Louise Jessine August Weber, with whom he had 7 children. Dang. Anyways, Johann worked as a clerk in the postal office in the city of Oldenburg. It was a pretty comfy life until at the age of 33 years old when Johann was charged by the Duke of Oldenburg for embezzling a huge sum of money from the postal office. To escape punishment, he and his wife and his 5 surviving children fled Oldenburg looking for a new place to settle. After some moving around here and there, they finally landed to New York City. In New York City, Johann and his family ran a boarding house, basically like a hotel. That's where he met his best friend Charles Fortran, who was also a German. They made a plan together to move to the city of New Orleans, as it was said to be teeming with job opportunities. However, while on the ship ride to New Orleans, Johann and Charles read on the newspaper about a county called Austin in the region of Texas. They took an interest in the area, so they decided to reroute themselves to Austin rather than New Orleans. After Johann and his family's long journey escaping prosecution, they made it to Austin County on March 9, 1831. On April 16th of the same year, Johann bought a large amount of land in the area. He then sent many letters back to his friends in Germany, telling them how amazing Texas was and that they should come as well. This news somehow spread throughout Germany though, which led to the migration of Germans to the county of Austin in Texas. Upon arrival, Johann would financially support these new immigrants to help them get started in the area. He even allowed them to stay at his house while they were getting accommodated. Because of Johann's support, the German community began to grow bigger and bigger as the years went on. In fact, the new German settlers even named Johann as the father of immigrants. Eventually, the settlers even created a society called the Society for the Protection of German Immigrants in Texas. Quite a lengthy name, but it gets the point across. Okay, but what if you're a Texas German who wants to get in touch with their roots? Well, that leads into today's video partner, NordVPN. With NordVPN, you'll be able to access the internet as if you were in Germany without ever needing to leave your home. As a Japanese learner, I have personally used NordVPN to gain access to a wide variety of region-locked media. By selecting Japan as my country, I'm able to view the internet the same way a person in Japan does. But that's not all. As an avid traveler, I'm constantly accessing any public Wi-Fi networks I can find. With NordVPN, I can rest easy knowing that I can access these networks without the fear of someone else stealing my sensitive data. If you're interested in these kinds of features and so much more, go to https://nordvpn.com/TheLingOtter or just click the link in the description below. With my link, every purchase of a 2+ year subscription will include a bonus 4 months, which is the best deal that NordVPN is currently offering. In fact, with NordVPN's 30-day money-back guarantee, you can try it out risk-free. Protect yourself from any online threat by using NordVPN today. Once again, thank you NordVPN for partnering with me, and let's get back into the video. And the years continued just like this, with the German community growing every year. Johann even got to witness Texas moving from being a part of Mexico to being its own country to finally becoming a part of the US. So that's the story of how German immigrants were able to reach Texas, creating a strong community to back up the preservation of the language. Alright, but how many speakers of Texas German are there? Well, in the early 1900s, it's estimated that there were around 90,000 Texas German speakers, reaching a peak of 160,000 in the 1940s. Now, however, the number of speakers is in the thousands, if that. What caused this decline? Well, you could probably take a guess. Yep, war. Specifically, World War I. During this war, there is an increase in anti-German sentiment among the American population. Despite Germans being one of the largest immigrant groups, many decided to change the names of schools, foods, towns, businesses, and even their own names in order to avoid discrimination. It got so bad, in fact, that German books were even thrown into fires. And this discrimination wasn't just limited to social circles, it also extended into the US's government's policies. For example, the Justice Department gathered a list of 480,000 German Americans. With this list, the Committee of Internment of Alien Enemies recommended sending all of these German Americans to internment camps. Thankfully though, this idea was rejected by the War Department and the Attorney General. Even if this idea didn't go through, the US government made many propaganda posters displaying Germans in a negative light, influencing the general public to be even more suspicious of anyone with German descent. On top of this, the Red Cross rejected German Americans from joining due to the fear of sabotage. Because of this massive movement against Germans, it's no wonder that many decided to just stop speaking German completely. In turn, this led to parents no longer teaching German to their children in fear of putting them in danger. Fun fact, or not really fun but more of an interesting fact, words like hamburger, measles, and Dachshunds had their names temporarily changed due to their German origin, becoming Liberty Sandwich, Liberty Measles, and Liberty Pups. And of course, this discrimination wasn't just limited to World War I. As just a few decades after this, there was another war with Germany. You probably have never heard of this war, as it's not really significant or whatever, it's just called World War II. So basically, just throughout the entire first half of the 20th century, having any connection to Germany in any way culturally or linguistically was frowned upon, which explains the massive drop of Texas German speakers around this time. After this sharp decline though, German language and culture never fully recovered in the United States, except for small rural towns that were generally isolated, like the many German towns in Texas. Because of their isolation and high population of German Americans, the language and culture didn't take as big of a hit compared to other areas. This is why to this day, there exist small pockets of German dialects in the United States. Besides Texas German, there's Pennsylvanian Dutch, which despite the name is a German dialect, not a Dutch one. Most likely, this is due to the fact that the Amish community who speaks this dialect are fairly isolated from general society. But we're here to talk about Texas German, not Pennsylvanian Dutch, so let's get back to that. Now, the town with the largest number of Texas German speakers is Fredericksburg, which is in Austin County. It has around 1,000 Texas German speakers. Of course, there are a lot of other towns scattered here and there that have native speakers as well, but Fredericksburg just has the largest population of them. Now take this number with a grain of salt because it was counted in a census done in the year 2000. It's been 24 years since then, so the number of native speakers in the town is probably way less now. Some other towns that have a notable amount of native speakers include New Braunfels, Schulenburg, Stonewall, Verne, Harper, Comfort, and Weimar. Anyway, now that we have the history and context, let's dive into the actual linguistics of the Texas German dialect. So, because German immigrants in Texas came from all over Germany, the dialect that developed in Texas was a sort of amalgamation of all these dialects. Additionally, due to the proximity of English, this dialect also has many more English loanwords when compared to Standard German. For example, Texas Germans will use the word blanket, whereas Standard German would call it a Decke. That's not all that's different though. Many native German words had to be invented for new concepts and objects that appeared throughout the years. For example, the airplane wasn't invented until the early 20th century, so both Germans and Germany needed a new word for it along with Texas Germans. While the Germans decided to call it Flugzeug, which directly translates to flight thing, Texas Germans invented the word Luftschiff, which directly translates to airship. This goes for the word skunk as well. Since the skunk was a native animal to the Americas, the Texas Germans had to make a new word for it. So they called it a Stinkkatze, which means a stink cat. Meanwhile, Standard German uses the word Stinktier, which directly translates to stink animal. Okay, so now I'll just list off a bunch of different words that I could find online. I'll be saying the direct translation whenever there is one, since I don't want to butcher the German language. I'll still show the German word, of course. Squirrel. Texas Germans say oak cat, while Germans say little oak horn. Fence. Texas Germans say fence, while Germans say Zaun. Rope. Texas Germans say rope, while Germans say Ziel. Car. Texas Germans say car, while Germans say Wagen. Creek. Texas Germans say creek, while Germans say Bach. Judge. Texas Germans say judge, while Germans say Richter. Now let's compare some sentences. I behaved myself. Texas Germans would say Ich habe mich behaved, while Germans say Ich habe mich benommen. We moved to Brenham. Texas Germans would say Wir sind nach Brenham gemoved, while Germans would say Wir sind nach Brenham gesungen. If you're interested in hearing an actual native speaker of Texas German, check out this little clip.
Ich heiße Vernell Ehler. Ich bin 6 Mal nördlich von Friedrichsburg geboren. Zu der Zeit waren die meisten Kinder noch zu Hause geboren. Und ich kann mich nicht erinnern, wo ich nicht beide Sprachen konnte. Deutsch und Englisch. Ich habe es zur selben Zeit gelernt.
Alright, so are there any efforts to preserve this dialect? Well, in 2001, a man by the name of Hans Boas was on the drive to Austin from California after obtaining a job as a professor in German linguistics at the University of Texas. On his way there, he stopped by a cafe in Fredericksburg when he heard a group of old men speaking a German he had never heard before. That's when he discovered the existence of the dialect and decided to create a Texas German dialect project, whose mission is to record and preserve Texas German culture, language, and history. This project is headed by the Department of Germanic Studies and the Linguistics Research at the University of Texas. If you're interested in learning more about this project, I'll leave a link to that in the description below. Anyways, the existence of Texas German is such an interesting topic to me because many people don't even know about it. After decades of linguistic discrimination, there's finally some effort to preserve the dialect. Unfortunately though, even with some preservation efforts, it does appear that the dialect will soon die out, as the majority of native speakers are really elderly. If there are any other cool dialects that you know about, leave them down in the comments below. I love hearing about all these little languages and dialects that pop up in unexpected places. Also, thank you so much to my Patreon supporters: Aspen, Zergon, Derek Moore, Hayim, Brayden, Warden Actual, Manrock1, Michael McNay, and Pango. I wouldn't be able to do this without y'all. Anyways, see you in the next video. Ciao!